Hey guys, it's Sherry. Welcome back to Lipstick and Sass. Today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about my most used palettes of 2020. I have, I think seven? One, two, I think seven. Seven palettes that somehow managed to get used a little bit more than everything else. I kind of did a project where I had to use every palette at least 5 times. Usually in a year I use things a lot more, but because of the global situation, my makeup use kind of halted there for a little bit. But then towards the end I was like, you know what? There's no reason not to use this stuff. I'm still kind of going to work. I'm still doing stuff. I want to wear my palettes. There's no reason not to. So everything got used at least 5 times, but then I had, a few palettes that did get used a little bit more. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about those palettes and we'll see if there are any surprises. There really aren't, I don't think. So the first one I want to show you is Modern Renaissance by Anastasia Beverly Hills. I have talked about this palette multiple times. This is my favorite Anastasia palette. It is kind of a very neutral, a lot of pinks and burgundy shades in it, a lot of neutral shades. This is the color that this is the palette that has the color that I bought the single from so that I could just use that all the time and not have to worry about having this palette out. And you can actually kind of see there is a little bit of a divot in that particular shade, and it's this one right here, the Buon Fresco, which I do not speak Italian, so it's very difficult to say that word. For some reason, I just think the B-U-O-N is not being pronounced correctly. But this is the color here, and again, it might seem a little boring, but it's just this really pretty kind of lilac lavender color. And it's very simple, it's very easy, but you can use that color as the basis for almost any look that you want to do. So if you look at this, let's see if I can do this. I don't want to drop the plastic. But if you look at the palette, pretty much everything on this side is very neutral, and everything over here is a little bit redder and more brown. But it's got just a lot of really, really pretty colors in it. This antique bronze color is really nice. So there we go. So that is the Anastasia Modern Renaissance, and this is probably, of all the palettes that I use, this is probably my favorite one, but this is definitely my favorite Anastasia palette. So the next one is another Anastasia palette. This is the Soft Glam palette, and this palette got used really, really quickly. And this is pretty neutral as well. I got a lot of darker, kind of more neutral brown tones in it. It's got an orangey color, which I don't know if I've ever used or will ever use because I don't like orange. But it's got a really pretty rose pink color. Kind of a little bit of shimmer. See that? I really, really like that color too. And it's got a really good black in it. It's got a nice mulberry color, which is actually called mulberry. So that's really, really pretty. But I actually used this palette like 7 times before I even really got started with all the rest of the palettes. So this for sure was a really good palette. Now, let's break up the Anastasia a little bit. This is the Naked 2 by Urban Decay, and this one was used, I think, about 7 times. The mirror is falling out, so we gotta be a little bit more careful with this one. But if you know anything about Urban Decay, they are well known. All their well-known palettes are the Naked line, basically. So this is, again, this is Naked 2. And you can see, again, this is more of the neutral tones. I think for the most part, my tendency is towards neutral toned eyeshadow palettes. Browns, I like very light pinks, light purples, things like that. I think they're easier to work with. But this one has some really nice shimmers. So this is Chopper and Suspect. Let's see. Chopper and Suspect. So this one is Chopper. Can't see that. Chopper, and then Suspect, which again you can't see. But it goes all the way from really, really light to a nice black. So Naked 2 was my most used. Oh, I had another Urban Decay. So that wasn't my most used Urban Decay. So my next one is the Carly Bible by Anastasia Beverly Hills. Now this one I'm a little bit surprised was in my top because it's a very pretty palette. It's kind of within my normal range, but I feel like the color scheme is a little odd, and so I think that's why it's a little bit difficult for me to use. But somehow I found a way. Apparently though, I think mostly what I was doing was using the 2 or 3 very neutral shades that are in here, because the ones that are more shimmery, I don't think I really touched. But again, this is the Carly Bible palette by Anastasia Beverly Hills. Again, I don't know if it's just me, but I feel like the color scheme's a little weird. I really like this pink color here. Everything else seems to be shimmery though. There's like, I think 2 or 3 super neutral colors. But again, they were difficult for me to use. So this is, I think it's called Oa. And I think this one's Jode. And I don't know if I've ever used either one of these, but this is Oa. And this is Jode. And they're really, really pretty. I just don't know if I've used them. Because I usually would use this super, I don't even know what color that is, a pinky color I guess, but it's called Bible and the other one's called Bowie. So this one's Bible and this one's Bowie. So more neutral colors. But this is the Carly Bible palette. So this is my 4th most used. And these aren't in any order. They're just kind of, I piled them up by what would not fall over. So this next palette is not an eyeshadow palette. It is actually a highlighter palette. This is the Lunar Beauty Greek Goddess Highlight Palette. And I have talked about the Lunar Beauty Greek Goddess palettes over and over again, mostly because of the packaging. I am obsessed with the packaging on this palette. And this is what this palette looks like. It is, again, it's a highlighter palette, and it is so, so pretty. And I think there for a little bit I wanted to kind of focus on using it, just because it's so pretty. This is Phoenix, and this is Medusa. So, Phoenix and Medusa. And again, these are highlighters. Oh, they're so pretty. And then I'm actually kind of surprised that the eyeshadow palette that goes along with this, that is basically the sister to this, I'm kind of surprised this isn't in here. But I think that the reason it's not is because I'm afraid to use it up, because I think it's limited edition. I'm not sure if you can still get it. So I don't want to use it up because it's so pretty and it's so creamy and smooth. But I think I'm really gonna have to start working on that too because it's such a nice collection. Okay, the next item is by Morphe, and this is the 25B Bronzed Mocha palette. And the reason I liked this one is basically because it is all brown. And pretty much always need this. So I have used this obviously quite a bit. This shade right here in the middle looks pretty beat up. Still feels nice though. I am just a mess right now. But this is, I think that shade Sparkle. But if you notice, like we've got some shades like right in here that are a little bit more burgundy. They're brown colors, but they do look a little burgundy. Ooh, that's really nice. And I don't think you could see that. So never mind. The only problem that I have had with this particular palette though is that these colors here seem a little too cool toned for what I really want. And then unfortunately the colors that are down on this side, they're just a little bit too dark. So it's kind of hard to kind of get exactly what I want. But somehow, apparently I still, use this one all the time. Now, this last palette, this is absolutely, to me, a surprise that this palette ended up being in my top 7. Because every time I thought about using this palette, I didn't want to use it. For some reason, it just didn't appeal to me.